Our opening words today are from Martin Luther. If I knew tomorrow that the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree.
We are gathered today under the canopy of the sky, upon the sacred ground of this earth, our home. And though we sit in these chairs and not in the forests, though our roof is crafted of human hands, the call of the nature still reaches us. The world is not outside of this sanctuary. It is within and all around. Ecology is not a subject out there, but a spiritual concern rooted deeply in our Unitarian Universalist faith. I invite you now to gently close your eyes or soften your gaze and let your body come into stillness. Feel the ground beneath you, the chair, the floor, the bones of the earth, holding you up. You do not have to try. You are already held. Focus on your breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale and exhale. With each breath, remember you are in relationship with the trees. They breathe out what you breathe in. You breathe out what they breathe in. A sacred exchange, a covenant of existence. Feel the air in your lungs. The same air is truly ancient and is as old as the earth itself. It once passed through the forests, across the oceans, through the wings of birds and the bellies of whales. The same air was breathed by dinosaurs and by our ancestors. The breath in you is the breath of the world. Now bring your mind to the image of the earth, not as an object beneath us, but as a presence, alive, wounded, beautiful, enduring. The earth is not asking us to save her. She is asking us to wake up, to remember that we belong to her, that we are her children. In this quiet moment, let us listen. May we hear her call, not as guilt, but as grace, not as shame, but as invitation to return, to protect, to love. When you are ready, bring your awareness back to this room, back to your breath, back to your heartbeat. We are here. We are alive, and we are not alone. Our seventh principle calls us to respect the interdependent web of all existence. Not admire, not observe, respect. That word demands something of us. The web is not a metaphor. It is a biological and spiritual reality. Bees depend on flowers. Flowers depend on bees. Trees give us oxygen. We give them carbon dioxide. Every creature, every plant, every fungi, every protist, every strand of bacteria and algae are part of this sacred web of life. We are not above this web, nor outside of it. We are woven within it. Each of us is a strand in something far larger than ourselves. In pre-Columbian America, in modern-day Nevada, where I grew up, various Native American peoples in the region, the Shoshone, Paiute, and Washoe, roamed the Great Basin Desert foraging for food. A staple of their diet was the nut of the pine tree found covering the mountains of the region. Pinus monophylla, or the single-leaf pinyon pine tree, is a short, stubby, shrubby tree with sharp, stubby pine needles. It is a common Christmas tree in the region where I grew up. My family, every early December, would get a harvest tag and drive out into the snowy mountains and harvest one for our Christmas tree. And their sharp needles were not fun to contend with, as it happened to myself to have one of those pinyon pine trees fall on me as a child. In the fall, but only once every 7 years, the trees are ornamented with small pine cones, which are harvested by local peoples. The nuts of these trees are roasted, shelled, and ground into a flour to make a bread, like a food that sustained them. The people of that area's spiritual practice surrounded these trees, the nuts they carried, and the fish they ate in the various saline lakes in the region. Each year, a different grove in a different mountain range would come to seed. And the local peoples would move around every year, following this sacred circle of life around as each harvest season for each year in a different region came to fruition. As nomadic societies were highly dependent on the rhythms of nature to tell them when to plant their food, when to harvest their crops, when to forage for a particular berry or hunt for a specific animal, when to prepare for the winter. This was the state of human affairs for eons, carefully following the wheel of the year and the various patterns found in nature. Christian and feminist theologian Sally McFaig, through her bold reimagining of God as a caring creator, inspired generations of theologians and faith leaders to take environmental degradation as a spiritual concern, not merely policy or activism. She proposed that we imagine the entire cosmos, sun, moon, trees, rivers, animals, and people, as the embodied presence of God. God is not a distant overseer, but the inspired life force animating the world, an organic model of God. Quite pantheistic for a Christian, in my opinion, but I digress. She contrasted her organic model of God with traditional Christian models of God as a monarch or a supreme king. The covenantal image promotes dominion and separation, while the organic model emphasizes interdependence and sacred connection with creation. Sin is redefined as harming parts of God's body, exploiting species, ecosystems, or the earth herself. Salvation becomes a collective ecological hope, allowing all bodies to flourish, humans and non-humans alike. Eschatology, that part of theology which deals with the afterlife and death, the final outcomes from one's soul becomes realized now in improving on earth rather than promised in an afterlife. She offered a theology for our time that calls us to love earth as if it were truly God's living body. She wrote that if we believe that the divine resides in all creation, then pollution is not just waste, it's desecration. Deforestation is not just progress, it is harm done to a living presence. But despite Dr. McFaig's efforts, we continue to live in a culture that has long separated humanity from nature. The myth of dominion, drawn from Genesis by some, misused by empires and nations, has led us to believe that the earth is ours to subdue. The decision that societies in the Middle East to establish permanent civilizations through advancements in agriculture, water management, and written language shifted us from working with nature to viewing nature as more of an adversarial way. Suddenly, we are the masters and nature is the servant. This has persisted through the ages. spreading from the Middle East throughout Europe and Asia and Northern Africa, and finally coming over to the Americas. It is through this lens that the people make the claim that climate change is a political issue, believing by many that it's a vast anti-democratic conspiracy trying to reign control over a free people. But what freedom will we have in a climate catastrophe? We bear a responsibility to ensure that our planet will be around for our prosperity, and we know that we are the cause of the current global warming trend. We thus bear the responsibility to ensure that this current situation is rectified. Industrialization may have brought the miracles of medicine and mobility, but at a deep cost. The air thickened, the seas warmed, the balance shifted. Climate change is not a political issue, it is a moral emergency, and our faith compels us to respond not with fear alone, but with love, courage, and justice. What would it mean to make ecology a spiritual practice? It might begin with reverence, to walk in the woods not just as a hiker, but as a pilgrim, to notice the miracle of moss, the persistence of ants, the resilience of weeds as they break through concrete. And it must lead to action. Not all of us are scientists. Not all of us are politicians and powerful. Not all of us can march, but all of us can participate. Composting is a spiritual act. Voting for clean energy is a sacred responsibility. Teaching a child to care for a garden is an act of hope. I hope you will join me after the service before the talkback as we walk our labyrinth to celebrate our sacred space within the hustle and bustle of the city as one of our sacred spiritual practices here. Ecology also cannot be separated from justice. It is not enough just to protect nature and the earth herself, but we must also protect the people most harmed by environmental destruction. Communities of color, low-income neighborhoods, poor nations bear the greatest burdens of pollution, heat, and water scarcity. The children of Flint, Michigan, the families in Louisiana's Cancer Alley, the villages sinking beneath rising oceans, these are not isolated tragedies. They are part of the same broken system that views the earth and some of its people as disposable. Environmental refugees are already a reality. People are literally being pushed out of their homes due to rising seas, damaging and devastating storms, massive floodings, and catastrophic, uncontrollable wildfires. Low-lying countries could even cease to exist at all. These events are affecting the most vulnerable populations on Earth. Many scientists believe there will soon be places simply too inhospitable to continue to sustain human life, and we must prepare ourselves for the billions of affected populations as a result. Our ability to produce food is being challenged by desertification due to climate change, only amplifying the situation, leaving more and more people hungry in this world. Unitarian Universalists have a proud tradition of showing up for justice. Let us now show up for environmental justice. Our other religions, common in our society, believe that we humans are incapable of harming the earth, that God's intervention will simply not allow us to do so. Worse, that we are in the end times, so such efforts are meaningless in a world about to end and be restored to God's standard. To that, I am reminded of my childhood in the Boy Scout program, where we were taught that we should leave a campsite better than we found it, and we should leave this earth the same. Some believe that the massive size of Earth couldn't be affected by human activity. to which we know that the ecological balance rests on the thinnest of fulcrums, and just a small change has a lasting and large impact. It is easy to despair. The headlines are overwhelming, the science is sobering, but despair is not a strategy. Hope for us is not naive optimism. Hope is a choice, a discipline, a spiritual muscle we must keep using. Buddhist scholar and ecological activist Joanna Macy speaks of an active hope. Not the hope that something will happen, but the hope that pushes us to make it happen. We can be the turning point. We can be the ancestors that future generations thank. Our Unitarian Universalist ancestors fought for abolition, for suffrage, for civil rights. Today, the great moral struggle of our time includes the fight to save the living world. Not just polar bears, but the poor. Not just the forests, but the future. To be a Unitarian Universalist in this time is to live with our eyes open to beauty and to brokenness, and to say, I will act, I will love, I will protect this earth, for it is sacred. Let us leave today not with guilt, but with purpose, not with shame, but with resolve. Let us remember that our faith teaches us not only to believe in the interconnected web, but to protect it with all our strength, all our wisdom, and all our love. May it be so, in the name of all things holy and great in this world. Amen, and blessed be.
The moral covenant of reciprocity calls us to honor our responsibilities for all that we have been given and for all that we have taken. It is our turn now, long overdue. Let us hold a giveaway for Mother Earth, spread our blankets out for her, and pile them high with gifts of our own making. Imagine the books, the paintings, the poems, the clever machines, the compassionate acts, the transcendent ideas, the perfect tools, the fierce defense of all that has been given, gifts of the mind, hands, heart, voice, and vision, all offered up on behalf of the earth. Whatever our gift, we are called to give it and to dance for the renewal of the world, all in return for the privilege of breath.